The blood and cheese incident is one of the most brutal and significant moments in the Dance of the Dragons, and it also had an unexpected consequence that stretches far beyond the end of the war and all the way through to A Song of Ice and Fire itself. Let's take a look. Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek. On this channel we cover House of the Dragon and the wider world of Ice and Fire in depth. And this video is another joint production with the excellent History of Westeros. Please do check out their podcast and YouTube channel. There's a link in the description. And this is your rather obvious spoiler warning for House of the Dragon. If you want to remain unspoiled there, proceed with caution. We'll be talking here about what happens in the book, but, well, you know. For many, Blood and Cheese was the most shocking moment in the Dance of the Dragons, and another turning point that made not just war inevitable, but a brutal personal war inevitable. After the death of Prince Lucerys at the hands of Prince Aemond near Storm's End, Prince Daemon vowed to avenge him, writing from Harrenhal to the Black Council, "An eye for an eye, a son for a son." Without consent from them or his queen, he hatched a murder plot that resulted in the death of Prince Charis, the young son of newly crowned King Aegon II and Queen Helena. The deed was done with an odd mix of cruelty and honour, as the opportunity was there to kill several other important Greens, but the others were let go after bearing witness. Of course, no one thanked Prince Daemon for this so-called restraint, and the brief phase of diplomacy before the Dance of the Dragons ended on a deeply personal and tragic note. Some on Team Green felt vindicated in their belief that Rhaenyra would kill mercilessly to claim the throne. Others, like Helena, never recovered from the trauma, and for still more, the war just became that one bit more personal. This was a 6-year-old boy, remember, and their heir to the Iron Throne. War with no quarter followed, and the Seven Kingdoms underwent massive changes as a result, but the incident of Blood and Cheese had an even broader impact on Westeros than you may have noticed. So let's briefly jump forward 170 years or so to the time of A Song of Ice and Fire and look at the cat situation. Bear with me on this one. Early in Book 1, A Game of Thrones, Arya is led on a long chase by a black cat. It was part of her training per Syrio Forel's instructions, as cats are very elusive, and this one was the most difficult she had encountered in the Red Keep, which is, quote, full of cats. This particular cat, named Balerion, apparently used to belong to Princess Rhaenys, who was killed by Sir Amory Lorch during the sack of King's Landing, and the princess's death was a key moment at the end of Robert's rebellion. Like much earlier, the death of Prince Charis was a key moment at the start of the Dance of the Dragons. Notably, simply being in the Red Keep didn't protect Princess Rhaenys, just as it didn't protect Prince Charis. Arya had at last caught the cat when she was noticed by Tommen and Myrcella. She was wearing simple clothing fit for feline pursuit and had grown quite dirty as Balerion led her all around the castle, so they didn't recognise her. Tommen, a notable fan of cats himself, seemed concerned, but she stayed quiet when they asked what she was doing. One of their guards pointed out that you can't keep this sort out, like trying to keep out rats. Though the guard failed to recognise that he was speaking of a Stark, he is not wrong that keeping rats out has been a long-running problem in the Red Keep. Arya fled from them all and kept running until she found herself lost in the depths of the Red Keep. In near darkness she discovered dragon skulls, a conspiratorial conversation between Varys and Illyrio, and eventually a way out. But her escape came via a drainage pipe, and she smelled as one might expect of someone who had walked through sewage. Thus, when she asked for re-entry to the Red Keep, the guards mistook her for a beggar and told her to leave. She responded in turn that she wanted to see her father, and one of the guards reacted in a manner similar to the Lannister guard, saying, "Who's this father of yours? The city rat catcher?" He said that because the Red Keep doesn't seem to employ rat catchers at all, though it used to. In current times, it uses cats like the one Arya was chasing to keep a lid on the rat population. Though neither Arya nor the guardsmen knew it, this state of affairs with regard to rats and cats is entirely because of Blood and Cheese. So let's jump back again to Blood and Cheese. Though the Greens had seized control of King's Landing, Prince Daemon Targaryen still had many connections there. He had been commander of the Goldcloaks, many of whom he could still count on to be loyal to him personally, due to the popularity he garnered with them during his stint in charge. He had also formed many relationships with underground figures over the years, the exact sort of individuals willing to do the dark deed he now demanded. A throwaway line in Fire and Blood also says that he had an ally on the Green Council itself, which is intriguing, but let's leave that for another video. With Messalina the White Worm's help, 2 men were hired. Neither of their true names are recorded in the histories, but we know what they did all too well. The first was nicknamed Blood, a big brute who lost his gold cloak for beating a sex worker to death during a drunken rage. It's unknown if Damon was his commander at the time. The second was a rat catcher named Cheese, employed at the Red Keep, one who knew the secret tunnels extensively, perhaps as well as Damon himself, or Varys much later, who led his little birds through the passages to finish off Kevan Lannister. Cheese similarly led Blood through the Red Keep in secret, evading all to emerge in Queen Alicent's chambers in the Tower of the Hand. They murdered her maid, and then waited, knowing that Queen Helena would come with her children to bid Alicent good night, as they did every evening. Alicent must have been hoping against hope that something disrupted their nightly routine, but her fears were realised when they arrived as expected. Blood quickly killed the guardsmen, who were not Kingsguard, else it might not have been so easy. Helena asked them who they were. Cheese answered that they were debt collectors, and repeated Damon's terrible promise of vengeance, an eye for an eye, a son for a son. Then he forced the queen to choose which of her sons would die, Jaehaerys or Maelor. She pleaded with them to kill her instead, but they reminded her it was a son for a son, not a wife for a son. Faced with an impossible choice, she hesitated, but Cheese told her to choose quickly or they'd kill all 3 children. The histories suggest that she then named her younger son Maelor because the elder was heir to the throne. Regardless of the true reason, Blood and Cheese were playing a cruel game. It's likely they intended to kill Jaehaerys all along, no matter what she said, and indeed Blood taunted the younger boy, telling him his mother wanted him dead, just before releasing him to slay his older brother. Their horrifying mission complete, they fled back through the tunnels from whence they came, tunnels the guards frantically searching for them did not even know of. Yet Blood was caught 2 days later. He had taken the dead prince's head with him and was found with it in his saddlebags when trying to leave the city. He was tortured for 13 days before dying, but not before confessing who had hired him. Cheese, on the other hand, was never caught, and may even have lived to collect his reward from Damon. This enraged King Aegon greatly. The king took his paranoid rage out on the other rat catchers. 100 were hanged. Otto Hightower, with probably the coolest head in the Red Keep at the time, ordered that the 100 dead rat catchers be replaced by 100 cats to live permanently in the Red Keep. Cats are pretty good at catching rats, after all, and much less likely to be assassinating princes. The cats that Arya chased around the castle years later were very probably the descendants of those original 100. And when you think about it, the tunnels, the rats and the cats are an unlikely thread running through almost 300 years of this story. The tunnels were included in the design of the Red Keep by Maegor as a safety measure for the Targaryens, and he then proceeded to cold-bloodedly murder all the builders to secure the keep's secrets, but then seems to have hired rat catchers who rediscovered these same tunnels, and some suspect someone may have used those tunnels to kill Maegor on his throne. A decade later, a plague took the life of another Targaryen princess, this time named Daenerys, as she clung to her kitten. This plague, called the Shivers, was carried by rats, so King Jaehaerys ordered the hiring of 100 new rat catchers. This attempt to save one Targaryen princess unwittingly led to the death of another many years later. 100 rat catchers brought in to save one princess, 100 killed after a prince's death. It's too bad that the old king hadn't simply taken a tip from his daughter and brought in cats instead. We may never know all the times the tunnels have been used for good or nefarious purposes. Certainly during the dance, Larys Strong seems to have used them to smuggle Aegon and some others out of the Red Keep. During Robert's Rebellion, Varys claims to have used them to smuggle baby Aegon out. Incidentally, Larys and Varys smuggling Aegons out of the Red Keep That's surely deliberate echoing by George R.R. Martin. Arya, we've already talked about. Tyrion murders his father and escapes the black cells through the tunnels. The list goes on. In short, had cats been brought in earlier rather than rat catchers, the Shivers might never have done the damage it did, and Cheese would never have learned to use the hidden passages in the Red Keep. Cats could have saved at least 2 Targaryen children, although there are also hints that Arya's newfound ability to warg into cats may come into play later in the story in the Red Keep. Maybe she will warg into Balerion, that old cat, and, well, let's leave that to another video. I've got some thoughts on that. A kind of deep dive Cats of Ice and Fire theorising video. Anyway, the point here is that what happened with Blood and Cheese was not just a tragic, horrific, isolated event, and we shouldn't even just look at it through the lens of what it meant for the Dance of the Dragons. George R.R. Martin has built layers into his world that echo back and forwards through time. Those tunnels were there because a cruel king thought they would bring safety. Instead, they brought danger. Those rat catchers were there because of a loving father trying to save his daughter. Years later, a loving mother would see her son killed because of one of them. Those rat catchers would be replaced by cats because humans can't be trusted, but perhaps with skin changes, now even the cats can't be trusted. This is a large, interconnected world where decisions like whether to have cats or human rat catchers in a castle have implications that echo through the ages, and some, like with Blood and Cheese, can shock us every time we read. In a war like the Dance of the Dragons, where even children are targets, no one is safe and no act is too dishonourable. Blood and Cheese set the tone for what was to come. And also, though no one then knew it, it was the reason why cats became so common in the Red Keep decades later. If you'd like to see more videos like this about the deeper lore of George R.R. Martin's world, there's a link to my playlist appearing now on the left of your screen. Or to check out my live stream channel IDG Live, there's a link in the centre of your screen. I try to stream at least once a week to answer all your questions, and there are some other random super nerdy things on there too. Thanks for watching. That's all for this time. I'll see you again soon.